right, here we go. There's the time lapse that you just walked in on. I just did a little bit of breathing. I blew my nose. And now I feel like I'm ready to tell my story. So, hello. My name is John Morse. And I'm about to tell you a story that I've been looking forward to telling for the last 3 years. I made a promise with myself that I wouldn't cut my hair until I released episode 1 of this story. And I've decided to turn it into a documentary so you can see that's some pretty long hair. It's about 3 years worth. But I've been looking forward to telling this story, but I've also, if I'm being completely authentic and real, which is the goal of this first episode, is that it also came with some fear to share this. I've been struggling with my ego these last couple of years, not in the sense that I didn't want to put myself out there at the end of the day. I prefer to not have a social media presence. And my fear was that by releasing this, I would bring more attention to myself than I really wanted. And so our ego is not a bad thing. It protects us from the outside world, as I think a lot of people know. There can be too much ego sometimes, but my ego was not that I wanted to put myself out there. It's the complete opposite. I wanted to keep myself safe. So this story, well, it's called Million AOL. This is episode 1 for Acts of Love. Million AOL, Acts of Love. My goal is that by sharing this docu-series, is that it will be just a drop of love, and that it'll create a ripple, and that we'll find unity in love. In thinking about how I got to this point, I thought, what is one thing that everyone can agree on? And I think it's love. Who can disagree with love? It's one of the best feelings in the world. We're all humans. We all share this one thing, is that we have the ability to feel. And what I want to be conveyed through this is that I have love for you. I have love for every human out there. I believe that we're all one race, the human race. And by sharing this, that maybe, just maybe, we can start a movement of love. And because it's one thing we all agree on. And I'll tell you how I got to this point right here. I took that promise of not cutting my hair very seriously because this message is so important. And I think it's important for this time. I think today is, it's Sunday, November, I think it's the 3rd, November 3rd. And I wanted to get this out before this upcoming election. We are all standing here watching what is about to happen and go one of 2 very different ways. And if you feel yourself being triggered, that's okay. Authenticity can bring that out. But I'm just going to share my story, and I'm going to give myself only 10 minutes for this first episode. But, I realized over these last couple of years, I've learned, I thought that love was the highest emotion or vibration that humans could emit. And it is a vibration. When you walk into a room and there's a party with people in there and you feel the good energy of that room, you're like, yeah, this feels great. You can also walk into a room and be like, oof, man, there's some heaviness going on in here. In the same way, someone can walk into that room and light up the whole room and change the energy of that room. That is That's the human effect. It's pretty incredible. So my hope is that I can bring courage to your heart. That's the definition of encourage, to bring courage to someone else's heart. And my hope is that by sharing my story, maybe there's some people out there that have been holding back on sharing their stories, that number one, that people would share their story, and number two, that we can start just a movement of selfless acts of love, kindness, and service to others. And that's what I did. I went on a 40-day journey 3 years ago. And that promise to myself was that I would share this journey before I moved on with my life. So to get to that point, in a short period of time, I'm going to give you the cliff notes. And then over the course of these next 10 episodes, my goal is to make something that you can binge with your family and hear some pretty incredible stories. I'll bring you back. COVID. 2 weeks into Slow the Spread, I started an IT company. We grew extremely quick. I was the CEO, I had a business partner, and we went from, even before I had a business partner, there's two of us, we grew to 5, we grew to 10, we grew to 20, we grew to 30 employees in a year and a half span, all during COVID. But it was rough. I watched my life savings disappear, combination of big clients not paying on time and smaller clients not having the ability to pay. All that time, me and my business partner never paid ourselves during that period of time. It was rough, and I'm sure you can all remember what that time was like for you during lockdowns. But for us as an IT company, we did structured cabling and wiring. There was buildings we weren't allowed to go into and finish in order to get paid and finish our job because of the lockdowns. We were located, a lot of our technicians, just outside of DC. But after a year and a half of that, if you can also remember, there was so much turmoil in the world, so much division. We had just come off of an election. A lot of people believed that there was election fraud. A lot of people didn't believe that that is exactly what happened. Be aware of yourself. If you feel yourself being triggered, it's okay. Also during that time, we had COVID and vaccines were just becoming available about that time, September 2021. And there was a debate of whether to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. And, well, I looked at that and my heart was just, it felt like I was broken. Because I looked around at everyone around me and everyone had an opinion and it felt so divided. And I felt like I was broken. I felt like I was stuck too. Because every Monday morning I'd wake up and be like, how the heck am I going to come up with payroll this week? How the heck am I going to come up with $30,000 to $50,000 this week to pay our company's bills? We were that hand to mouth. So in September, I was talking to my friend, Donovan, and I was telling him, I was sharing with him where I was at. I was like, man, I feel so stuck. I feel like I don't even want to do this anymore. After 16 years in IT, I feel like I just want to walk away and be done with it. And he looked at me and he said, he didn't look at me because we were on the phone. But he said, John, if there was one thing, if you could do anything in the entire world right now, what would you do? And the first thing out of my mouth was, just instinctually, I said, I'd jump on a motorcycle and I'd just drive around the country and look for opportunities to love people. 2 days later, so that was on a Friday night, Sunday night, my business partner Clayton called me and he said, it was about 11:30 at night, and he goes, hey, man. I'm like, hey, what's going on? 11:30 he called, and that's late for him. He goes, bed early. So I knew something was up. He goes, you got a minute to talk? And I was like, yeah, what's going on? He goes, man, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, I'm like, you don't know how good it is for me to hear you say that. I'm like, I can't do this anymore either. And we agreed on that phone call that we would look for an out. And at the time, not only did we have payroll, but we had payments on trucks, leases on trucks, insurance, equipment. We had a ton of carrying costs, rent in a building. So that was a Sunday night. 3 days later, on a Wednesday morning, unsolicited, I had an offer in my inbox to buy all of our tools, all of our techs, basically take off our hat and put on another company hat that would pay them even better. But it was at a $0 transaction for myself and my business partner, meaning that we weren't going to make any money. We were just going to remove all liability. So we thought about it, but not very long. And we said, yeah, I felt like this was my out. It felt like this is God, the universe, whatever you believe in. We can all agree on love, right? I just don't want to let that God universe word mess with people. But I felt like that was God's way of just giving me an opportunity to get out. And so we took it. And the first thing I decided to do with that is like, well, I realized when I had that conversation with Donovan, and I said, I'm going to go love people. And so the rest of these episodes, I'm going to share what happened on there. But my intention was this. I'm going to go out and I'm going to look for opportunities to love people. I'm not going to make a left or a right until I feel in my spirit that that's where I'm directed to go. So it was a practice of listening. I didn't turn on my car radio for more than a couple hours during those 40 days and 40 nights. And that's a lot of solo driving. I got from the East Coast to the West Coast to all the way back again. And along that way, you can imagine that God's going to put some really cool things in your path if you go out with that intention. And it did. It happened. A lot of incredible things happened. And that's the story I want to share. Not only did I not take a left or a right, but I looked for opportunities to serve. If I saw somebody on the side of the road raking their yard, I pulled over and helped them rake their yard. If I saw somebody changing their tire, I pulled over and helped them change their tire. So the rest of these episodes, I knew that I had to at least get this first episode out. There needs to be context in order for the rest of this story to be as impactful, hopefully. The hardest part for me over these last couple of years, struggling with the ego, not wanting to put myself out there. I want to be authentic. It's the last thing I'll leave you with, is that I knew that I wanted love to be the basis of it because no one can disagree on that, right? We can all agree. And I want us to come together in unity. And I believe I can picture in my mind how this can catch. And that's my hope. I'm going to share my vision in a separate episode. I believe that was deposited in my heart. But hopefully you've had an open heart and a mind to listen during this period and just hear my authentic story. And that's what I will promise to you, is to just be authentic and real. There was a study, it's called Spain, the study of positive and negative emotion. It was done in Germany. I think it was done in like 2011 or 2012. And the study found that authenticity is the highest human emotion vibrationally that we can feel. And you can't fake authenticity. No one can, because we both feel it. We can feel the energy between us. And authenticity is it's in the spectrum of love, because if you share authentically, even if you share something that triggers somebody, that's just giving them an opportunity to follow that. Why is it triggering them? You didn't do anything wrong. You shared your truth. And so I'm going to share my truth authentically through this time. So I want to keep this short. I don't want it to be too long. Thank you for listening. The rest of these stories, I promise, will bring hope, joy, laughter to your soul. Because some funny things happen, some incredible things happen. But that's it. This is episode 1. This is me sitting in the woods without any distractions around me. And as the sun's coming through, the most beautiful place, trying to be grounded. I love you. And I believe that where we're heading is somewhere awesome. It's somewhere that we never could have imagined how good it's about to be, regardless of the outcome of what's about to happen. I knew it's important to get this drop of love out before that happened. And I promise to make sure that I don't wait 3 years in between episodes. My goal will be to have an episode out hopefully every Sunday night. And I think there'll be somewhere between 7 and 11 episodes, depending on how long. I want to keep them short. So with that, love you. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to sharing more.